Alan, it's great to see you. Super excited to have you on the show today. And last time we saw each other, we were in Miami. Where are you today?
It was about the same temperature as it is today. It only took us 2 months to get here. I'm in Toronto and just outside of Toronto and at home in my backyard, and you'll see maybe some birds flying in here. And yeah, I'm in my home in the trees, away from the technology.
Like I do every single time, I want to read back to you your experience. I want you to tell me if I get it right and correct me if I get it wrong. So, a couple things. One, you were the founder and inventor of Smithson Martin Inc. Tell me a little bit about that. That sounds like it was in the music industry, music
Right?
related.
It was pretty awesome. We back in 2010 we invented the world's first multi-touch application for Windows. So when I say multi-touch, I mean like real-time multi-touch. We were able to do 10 simultaneous touches on a 46-inch see-through touchscreen. So you've maybe seen a DJ playing on a giant see-through glass touchscreen.
Yeah,
We invented that thing. We
that's
ended up
awesome.
working with some massive artists and working with Microsoft directly, and we went to Sonar in Barcelona. It was really, really awesome.
So you're also the owner of Star Productions.
Yeah, so that's how we got into the technology company. So we had a DJ company, and then I saw a YouTube video of this technology, and I said, "What is this?" Wanted to buy it, and I realized that it didn't exist. So I found the guy who coded it, and we made a company together, and we ran that company for 5 years all over the world. We had a global distribution.
That's awesome. In 2019, when I first met you, you were the host of XR for Business podcast. That's how we first connected.
Oh man, I'm so grateful for everybody who joined that. Charlie Fink was my first episode. He was on a couple times, and you were on the show, and it was just honestly, I had come out of a bad place. We kind of we had acquired a company and it fell through, and it was like, how can we at least just learn about the industry in every way we can. And so every Monday I did 8 episodes. I interviewed 8 people every Monday on, and it was really around what are the technologies in XR, 3D, virtual augmented mixed reality, being used for work, being used for business, being used for enterprise. Everything from retail right through to social applications to meeting spaces to virtual commerce. There was training, everything in every industry too. It was 150 episodes. And then as I hit the 150th episode, I was like, I've learned everything I needed to. We ended up partnering with another company, and we merged the two companies together. So, we'd solved the problem that we set out to do, and that's find the technology. And so I took a step back from it, and I kind of retired the podcast at that point. It felt like that was all that needed to be said.
Yeah, it was a great, great show. And after that, pretty soon after that, you became the co-founder and CEO, right? You are the CEO of Metaverse.
Actually, we founded Metaverse in 2016, so I'm a co-founder
Oh,
there.
okay.
When we merged the two companies in 2019, the CEO of the technology firm, Cherry 3D, that we acquired, he became the CEO of Metaverse, and so that was the natural progression of things, right? We were an agency trying to find a technology to wrap our brand around. We had all the customers and we had the brand, and really we searched high and low around the world, and we ended up finding a technology stack and a team that lived within 15 minutes of our house. I can't even make this stuff up. We had searched everywhere. We had people in India, we had people in China, we had people in Japan, and all over the US, and we were trying to find this, the perfect technology, and it would happen to be right in our backyard. And our
Amazing.
one main caveat was it had to be a 3D creation platform. You had to be able to distribute photorealistic 3D on the web. And so these guys nailed it. We launched it. We actually acquired the company in 2019. We put the two companies together in 2020. We launched the product, and we're just about to launch version 2 of it. So it's been a
That's
wild
so
ride.
exciting. Yeah. Now I know that I know that you're an advisor, a board advisor, you're a mentor, and you've been involved as an investor in some different companies. But did I get your experience right? Was that pretty close?
Pretty close, yeah. I mean, I've had 11 companies. We've owned everything from a hostel at a ski resort. We owned a real estate holding company. We had a nutraceutical company, a DJ company, as we talked about. So we've done lots of things. Currently, I'm a co-founder in Metaverse, but also the mall, which is actually built on Metaverse, and it's a product by Metaverse. The mall is a virtual shopping mall. It's the world's largest virtual mall. We launched with our partner Juicyverse, Starburst Juicyverse last week. We were just in VentureBeat literally this morning, so it's been a
Nice.
crazy couple of weeks. And then I'm also a partner with my original partner from the emulator, from the Smithson Martin touchscreen, uh, Pablo Martin, my partner from that. He started an AI company. We started the company about a year ago, and it does facial tracking for multiple camera setups. So if I wanted to have multiple cameras for this interview, we could literally set that up, and it does facial tracking, so automatically switches cameras. So I can just talk to this camera, talk to this camera, talk to this camera, and it all automatically switches. And it's super useful for content creators and YouTubers and stuff like that. So we make that creator tool there. And then I'm also a board advisor for a space company. They're building novel rockets for reusable rockets to send heavy payloads into space or anywhere on Earth. Their goal is to have port to port transport anywhere on Earth in under an hour. So that'll be super cool once they get that off the ground.
Yeah.
I'm also a board advisor for a quantum sensor company that is working on biosensors, quantum biosensors at the molecular level. So being able to look at pharmaceuticals through a manufacturing pipeline instead of like doing kind of infra spectrular or infrared or spectrophotometry, you can actually look at it at a molecular level and make changes as needed. So it's really interesting tech. I got to go to and see a quantum computer last week. It was the strangest day, Boaz. I went to the quantum computing conference in the morning, and then in
Yeah.
the afternoon, I went to a thing called Pioneer Village, which is exactly what you think. It's like an old pioneer village in the top of Toronto for like an escape room thing. What a
That's
mind
hilarious.
melt! Yeah, I was in like the most cutting edge lab in the world, down to like yeah, the what do you call it? The Smith and the baker.
Yeah.
It's strange because this whole conversation is around the future of work, and if we look at the history of work, we look at from like when a small village used to make, one person was the smith and he was making the horseshoes and the metal goods, and then you had a wood maker making tables and whatever people needed, and then you had a saddlery, and you had everything within the village, and now our village is global and we have Amazon, but we have mastered manufacturing, and so we've gone from kind of these hands-on things where we are the craftsmen of these things to now we stand by and wait for an alarm to go off and to hit the switch and fix something when a world giant machine stops working.
Yeah.
And so that kind of leads you, that took, I don't know, like 100 years, maybe 120 years, something like that. um, but AI is here, and the change in our future of work will be compressed to, well, it's already here, so months, days, right? So how do we prepare people for an age when the entire world made a massive quantum leap, if you
Yeah.
would?
Well, you've been writing so much about AI recently, and one of the
Mhm.
things I wanted to make sure of today was talking to you about that and getting your sense of it. But before we do, though, I want to go way back, and I've just got a couple
Mhm.
questions for you about your background. I know you're Canadian. We've talked to a lot of folks from the U.S. on the podcast to date, so this is going to be the first Canadian perspective. But what was your first job? Your first job where you actually got paid?
My first job was cleaning the cages in a chinchilla farm.
Chinchilla.
Yeah, they're cute
Tell
little
tell me
rodents about
more.
this big. They're literally like a puffball, like the size of a softball. They're cute and they're soft. This is the softest fur you can ever imagine. But they're kind of vicious. Like you don't want to put your hand in the cage because they kind of bite. So I worked there a couple weeks, and I was cleaning out the cages, and one of the chinchillas, I really fell in love with him because he's the only one that didn't try to bite me, and he kind of came out of the cage and would sit on my shoulder, and I would clean the cages with him on my shoulder, and I kind of got to
Huh.
know this damn thing. And then one day I came in, they were all gone, including the little one I loved, and I was like, well, where did they go? What do you mean? Where'd you move them? Are we, putting? And then they explained to me what you'd use chinchilla fur for fur
Mm,
coats, and I was like, oh, I quit.
okay.
That's it. I'm out. I've had a couple
So
of
that
those
was the
experiences in my life when I realized what I was doing, it was I can't
yeah.
do it.
So that was the first job. What was your
Yeah.
favorite job? And it may be right now. I know you have a lot of passion about what you're doing right now, but you have such a variety of experience.
Yeah.
Like, what was your favorite job?
I mean, being on stage DJing at festivals and monstrous nightclubs and in huge events, I mean, that's pretty close to as awesome as you can imagine. I mean, I've DJed in Ibiza for 5,000 people. I've
Yeah,
DJed at Build Microsoft Build conference for 5,000 people. Yeah, I've DJing was up there. I never thought I would stop. I actually retired. I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, 7 years ago now. And I just focused all my energies on what I'm doing now. And I never thought I could love something as much as I did that. And it's a different energy. I mean, I don't get on the stage and and rock out anymore. But I get to do things like this where I'm actually making a difference in. I create a lot of content. I do a lot of interviews, and it's all with the one major goal. My goal in life is to build a new education system to prepare us for the future of work and what's to come in an age of AI. I just didn't honestly. I've been taking my time. I built Metaverse to build that, to do all of these things, to build the actual engine that we needed to deliver this at scale. The problem is it happens so fast. I mean, I
yeah.
get exponential growth, but holy crap, I can probably say, if you draw a line in humanity, November 30th, 2022, before that is pre AI, and after that is post AI. What the impact that AI will have on our societies and humanity in the next decade will make us forget that COVID was even a thing.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I'm very concerned about not only the use of it, which is great. I think that it can unlock massive human potential, but at a pace that we're probably not ready for. One, and the scale in which these technologies can get into the hands of bad actors and be used at a massive scale, and that everybody has access to it. And we gave the AI the complete, and like yesterday, Google announced that they've taught their Bard AI large language model to code in 20 different languages. Okay,
wow, that's amazing.
and then we gave it the entire internet's information, including our likes and dislikes as humans, at scale, TikTok swipes and all this. What could go wrong? I just launched a new website yesterday, and it's literally AI versus humans.ai. What could go wrong? And I've been doing a series. I started on LinkedIn, and I've done 131 as of today. AI versus human. It could be anything from, like, today, the OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has been called to testify in Congress. We're making good steps now.
Yeah, yeah, I want to go even deeper on some of your thoughts about AI, but first, I have a question for you about your family. I mean, you have such a diverse background. You're clearly a serial entrepreneur. Was work a part of the conversation growing up? What did your parents do? Did you guys talk about work at the dinner table?
So I think I kind of got two inspirations. My mom always had she was a real estate agent at one point. Then she also did insurance. So she had kind of this flexible hours, right? And I always saw that. I didn't see somebody going to work every day and sitting in a cubicle. I saw flexible hours, and I thought that was work. And then my dad owned a jazz bar and a
Wow.
business where he did, like, pipe fitting for building HVAC systems. And so I'd go work with my dad during the day, and we'd, like, go into people's basements and fix their HVAC and put in a new furnace or whatever. It was manual labor. It was great.
Yeah,
And then at night we had a jazz bar, and we would live above it, so I would get to go and hang out at the jazz bar. And so I
that
got,
is so cool.
with my mom, I got this kind of stability of, like, work, but from different places. And then from my dad, I got the entrepreneurial spirit of owning businesses. And then I read a book. I had a real job for, like, a very small minute. I was a pharmaceutical rep for 3 years out of university. Very, very successful at that. I was the number one sales rep in the country for 2 years in a row. And then I was on a flight once back from one of our conferences, and I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And he breaks
Mm,
down how, like, an employee gets paid, the government takes their tax, and then you spend what's left over. And a corporation gets paid, spends what they need, and then is taxed on what's left over. And that fundamental difference, I was like, oh my god, that over your course of your lifetime could mean millions, tens of millions of dollars in lost revenue and lost money to tax. So that was when I went down the rabbit hole of starting my own business, and that's why I tried so many different things. I read 4 Hour Work Week, started a nutraceutical company.
yeah.
I read, like, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing, and bought a bunch of properties, and they made money on it. That was a good one. Started the hostel and did that, and, like, yeah, man.
Let's jump into the most recent one. Talk about, explain to the audience what the metaverse is as a business. And honestly, the naming of the company I think is an interesting story, given that you were early. You didn't know that metaverse was going to be this word that everybody was talking about. I mean, when you name the company. So yeah, just let's hear a little bit about that, and then let's go deep into what you're doing with that in the XR space, because I think so many people know about you in the XR space, but I mean now you're also in the AI space. We'll talk about both, but let's start with metaverse.
Sure. So the term metaverse comes from a 1990 novel called Snow Crash. I finally met the author this year, so that's pretty cool. And he's going to be, I think, at AW Neil Stevenson.
Oh, good.
But anyway,
We'll see each other
it's
then.
kind of,
I'm gonna
it
be
was a
there too.
super cool. Oh, I'll be there. I'm running the enterprise track. Perfect. It was a really cool book. It's a very weird book. Like, it starts off and this guy's got a sword and he's chasing, and he's a pizza delivery guy, and you're like, what is happening? And then you realize that it's kind of in the future and the world's gone to shit, and now everybody's kind of in VR, and you're in this metaverse world, and it's one continuous world, right? Where you go in and everybody goes to school, they do their things. And it was right around the time where I also read Ready Player One, and the book Ready Player One talks about not just how the kind of highlights that the movie did, but it talks about how there's a planet dedicated to education, and you go there every day and you get credits, and you get credits for learning, and then you can go to other planets, and you can fight people on other planets, but it's like a giant infinite virtual world that everybody goes to in the metaverse. They didn't call it metaverse, they called it the Oasis, but the general concept of it.
Yeah.
So it was reading those two things, and then we were trying to. Our company was called Shock Creative, SHOK, and then Creative with a K, and we had a really cool logo, but it never really hit. And then my partner at the time, Dan, he says, "What if we called it Metaverse, spelled VRSE?" And we both were just like, "Yes, of course, done." And so we had the logo made, which is two triangles for the A and the V,
Hmm.
and we had 19 logos made, and everybody picked this one. And then we had it made, and then we actually, strangely enough, we never filed the trademark until exactly 1 month before Meta changed the name of the company and set off
Wow.
this kind of explosion of the word metaverse. And the word metaverse, typically refers to the kind of the future of the internet with, you know, um, 3D, AI, and perhaps blockchain.
And so primarily, what are you doing in the company? What are you offering? I know you have an engine, but talk about what you guys are offering as a service and as products.
Sure. So we started off as a studio, and we've built about 190 projects in XR, virtual augmented mixed reality, 3D. A lot of the projects recently are not using VR or head worn glasses, they're just using 3D on tablets and phones and computers. But it's getting back to VR again, which is cool. So we've done everything from, oh man, we built the first web AR project for a pharmacy company. We built a virtual reality photo booth for Samsung back in 2016. We shot a ton of 360. We actually had to build the 360 camera rigs at the beginning. So we actually at the beginning had a slogan: "We do everything," like EVRY, everything. Which was dumb, by the way. Don't do everything. But the whole point of it wasn't to do everything. It was to learn everything about the industry and what was coming. Because you got to imagine, back in 2014 when we started, there was no industry. It was a
Yeah.
DK1 piece of crap headset that you could look around in, and that was it.
Yeah, I remember
It was
that.
it
That
was
was
no three
crazy.
dot or six DOF. It was three DOF, and then it became six DOF, and you're like, whoa, I can lean in. And then they still didn't have hand controllers and all this stuff. It was way back. You talked about it earlier. Then we got the first Vives in Canada, and what they were stable enough to use them. And so what we did was we started doing events for brands, and we did all these events showing them VR, and that led into all these contracts. We did an AR sandbox for Kubota tractors, and then we had our own accelerator called XR Ignite, in which we found a bunch of companies to potentially acquire, and we ended up acquiring one. It fell through. Started the podcast, found the other people, acquired them, and here we are. And so we launched the Metaverse engine in 2020, right in the peak of COVID, right in June 2020, and we landed a couple of really big clients, Siemens Healthineers and Samsung, right away. And we realized, really, like within 3 months of launching a product, like we were so excited to get the product in the world. And there's a saying that if you're not embarrassed by the first iteration of your product, you released too late.
Yeah.
And so I mean, looking back now, it's like, oh, that was cute, but it worked. And we were able to build real valuable um, projects on it. And it was completely web based. The editor was on the web and the distribution was on the web to all devices. So you didn't have to build an app. You didn't have to build an iOS, an Android, and a desktop app,
Yeah.
or you didn't have to do any of it. Just pushed one click and it published to all devices. So it all worked the way it planned. But where it kind of fell apart was when the big companies were like, "Hey, can we build it on our cloud
Mm,
infrastructure? And what about can we connect it to
yeah.
this business intelligence tool? And what about if we have six people using it instead of like oh my god?" And so for the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, 2.5 years, we we rebuilt it from scratch. We took the rendering technology out and we rebuilt the entire thing with enterprise with our partners. Like literally, what features do you need? What do you know? And we built a GitHub repository. Now it's multiplayer, so you can have multiple people in a session all working together. You have embedded videos. We have embedded iframes, so we can bring other websites into it as well. We've got our own avatar system. We've got a physics system built in. You can do spatial audio in it now. We have a payment processing system in it now. It's just a robust
Yeah.
enterprise grade system that we did in microservices. So now everything is fully scalable. And so now we just launched, we're building a virtual mall, as I mentioned, and the virtual mall will be the largest virtual mall in the world. It's 100 floors, and maybe somebody will build a bigger one, but it's 100 floors, and each floor is 1 million square feet. So it's total 100 million square feet, and 1 million square foot's like a mid-sized convention center. It's huge.
Yeah.
So our first project is the Starburst Juicyverse. It just launched last week, and we just were in VentureBeat today for that. And it's super exciting. You go into the Juicyverse, you create your avatar, and you can walk in, and there's a Starcade where you can get a Juicyverse T-shirt on your avatar. You can get your photo taken. There's a little photo booth. There's a dance floor. There's a 3D search and find. And when you do the search and find, you get a coupon for a discount on your Starburst through an NFT. Then there's a studio where you can build, like almost like Minecraft, like you build out of cubes, but the little cubes are Starburst candies. So you can build a whole piece of art in Starburst and then mint it as an NFT. So the winners get minted as an NFT. It's really honestly super fun, and it's only just the
Yeah. It sounds
first of
fun.
many brand experiences to go in the mall, and it's all built on our Metaverse engine.
So you touched on this a little bit before, and I want to kind of ask you about it. Given the name of the company, given all the hype that we saw last year around the word
Yeah.
metaverse, and all these corporate folks wanted to have a metaverse strategy and felt like they were being left behind, what's your take on the hype? I mean, we're at the end of this hype cycle now. It seems like in the last 6 months, now all of a sudden, generative AI is the word that everyone has on their lips, and not metaverse.
It made us feel, so if you really want to know how all of this happens all the time, same thing NFTs. If you look back, it was
Yes.
NFTs, and then before that was ICOs, and before that it was early AI, and then so if you really want to see how this all works and where early money is made and lost and then gained again, take a look at the Gartner hype cycle. Every new technology follows this exact pattern every time. I don't know, I can't explain it, but what happens is you have a technology and it takes a long time for it to pick up. You're like, okay, quantum computing, great. For the last decade, everybody's been promising quantum. Then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, it's actually doing things. It's maybe close to solving problems. Money starts to pour in, and it goes up through this kind of growth chart. When it hits the top, is like the peak of crazy. When like people companies are making $1 billion valuations on nothing but an algorithm
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like where we are with AI right now is peak exploitation. Like holy crap, all the money's being poured into AI, and this will continue probably for another 6 months. It's usually 6 month cycles. And then what happens is they realize that okay, now there's 1,000 AI companies. There can only be a few winners. Like that's just the way the world works, and that's why OpenAI has raised like I don't know billions of dollars, like $10 billion or something, because one, it cost them half a billion dollars just to train the model, and then of course to keep the server spinning up, it's a lot. So if they can do it and they can become the dominant player, then you become entrenched like Uber and Airbnb, right? And nobody's going to challenge Airbnb now, or very
Yeah.
very hard to. So it's a race to be the best, and then everything else will lose its value. So you have this kind of peak wave, and then a huge drop where everybody loses their money. All the early VCs, all of those companies, those poor startup companies where they raise 10 million and then raise 20 million, they raise 50 million, they raise 100 million, and their valuation keeps going up and up and up and up. But it's not really based on reality; it's based on VC hype. And then, of course, you have the drop, and it goes into what's called the trough of disillusionment. It goes right to the bottom. Everybody gets wiped out and loses. So NFTs lost 95% of their value. The metaverse, I think, would probably, if you kind of took the metaverse hype wave, I would say was not as severe as the NFTs because But then again, if you everybody attached themselves to the word metaverse, everybody from AI to website builders to 3D to everybody called the metaverse, right? So,
Where do you see it now, though?
well, we're at the bottom of the trough, right? And the bottom of the trough is a great spot to be. That's where the real value, the long term value, is built. For us, it was just great. We're like, okay, our name brand is now a name brand. Like everybody knows the word metaverse, whether they know it as
Yeah.
our company or not. They subliminally think, oh, I've heard of your company. Great, this is
Yep.
great for business. But we didn't raise money at the peak. We didn't, we're a self funded company, so we're at the bottom now, coming out of a massive, and this is going to be create like a $10 trillion opportunity in the next decade, before the end of the decade, 2030. So we're at the beginning, at the bottom of this really massive wave that's coming in XR, 3D, and it's going to be this awakening. So to put it in perspective, we just won Best Advance in Education delivered through technology with our partner who we've been building 3D training solutions for in medical device training, and it's Siemens Health and Ears. And so they actually got on stage and they said that we have been able to help with our system reduce their in-person training from 9 days to 5 days, a 40% reduction in class training. And people
Wow, that's
come to the class
meaningful.
more prepared and everything. So it's been a real win for them. And once other brands realize that you can see this kind of return, it's only a matter before everybody has to do it, or else you're getting left behind.
Let's talk about the all of this in the context of the future of work. I'm really interested in
Mhm.
the way that the pandemic has changed the way that I work every day. And I know my
Mhm.
kids, given what's happening with AI right now, are going to be doing things a lot differently in the next decade. I mean, it's really mind blowing. And I try to separate
It's
myself
overwhelming,
from the hype
actually.
cycles. Yeah, it's really overwhelming, especially in the middle of a hype cycle like this, where you have 1,000 products getting released every single day. It's hard to keep track
I've never
of
seen it.
them.
I mean, let's be honest. Have you ever seen anything like this? I mean, okay,
Never.
maybe the NFT
Mm-mm.
projects, there was another stupid, ape, but man, there's literally 2,000 AI products out there now, like that happened overnight because they're all based on the same large language model. Now
Yeah.
it's available to everybody. And this is one of the challenges and problems of AI is because you've put this extraordinary power in the hands of the entire world with no guardrails or regulations. I mean, if I was a shady person, I would just take this and I would just use it to bet against people on the stock market. I'd just
Hmm.
create
Yeah.
algorithms to bet against people in the stock market, and it would cause pain. I would make me super rich. It's unethical and it's probably illegal, but there's no regulation. So who cares? Go for it until you get slapped on the wrist. You see what I mean?
How about
Like,
in the con? Yeah.
yeah, and then I don't know. This happened with NFTs and the blockchain, and these technologies have real value. So, for example, my friend has another company. It's called Degree Archive, and they're you being able to back up, authenticate, and back up your degree on a distributed ledger, so that your degree or learning any you know um, educational growth that you get, any certificates you get locked into a distributed ledger forever, so that you never can lose those. Because a university records building can burn down, hard drives can be
Yeah.
corrupted. So I thought that was a cool way of using blockchain to secure your educational legacy for the future of work.
Yeah, I know that, blockchain, given all the stuff that's happened in the news, is now a bad word, but I also have friends that are doing really interesting things in the space, and they are operating in the bottom of the trough, are happy to be there, and are building really, really interesting technologies.
The real builders, like, you think the real AI nerds that are coding this stuff every day and really in there in the trenches want the giant world spotlight on their face? No, it's terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, whoa, okay, we get it. You love what we're doing. That's cool. Let us get back to work and build some stuff. And one of the cool things is, I was under the impression that you know building software would be hard. Like, I never learned how to code, and I had always had to hire people. But now with these technologies, it's
Yeah.
really freeing up anybody to create, and that, I think, I mean, man, there's just 8 billion people in this. If we could just guide even a small percentage of them to build real solutions for the world, right? Like go build a model on how to change climate and reduce farming waste, whatever. Like there's so many challenges in the world that we can optimize for, and this technology puts that well within everybody's grasp.
So much of what you've been doing is about remote work and remote collaboration. With all this talk about CEOs forcing employees back to the office, and some thinking about more of a hybrid approach, and some, are remote first companies and are proud to be. How
Mhm.
are you thinking about work, the future of work for employees, and how they're going to engage, separate from the AI for a second, but just in
Yeah,
terms
yeah.
of how they're going to show up for each other, how they're going to show up to the office?
I'm not sure about VR, and I say that with all love. I have VR. I've got the headsets are sitting here. We have all the new ones. We have all the things, and nobody ever wears them. At the most, we wear it once a week for special events. We're meeting a bunch of people, and they're fun. It's great times. But until it's like super light that I can put it on and still have my computer in front of me, but like still do my work. So the closest I've seen so far is Horizon Worlds, which is Facebook's being put on the glasses, and you can see your keyboard, and it's nice because I want to I
Yeah.
just want to type, right? Like I don't, but it's still a little wobbly. It's weird. The cameras are a little weird. Um, but these technologies, I think, are starting to be used on 2D screens. So, for example, we just built a meeting room that you pop up as an avatar, and it's for adults. It's not. It's like Roblox, so I guess you walk around. But instead of having Roblox where you're trying to do a quest or something, you're in a meeting space where you can talk to peers and have a meeting and bring up PowerPoints and do grown up stuff in it. And it makes the grown up stuff a little bit more fun. And some people don't want to be on video. That's why actually Microsoft introduced their new Teams avatar system. So it's just like this, only we're avatars on video, and you're puppeteering it. So if I smile, the avatar smiles. If I give you a thumbs up, so it's just
Yeah.
some people are shy, and a lot of coders don't want to have their face on screen. So being able to have these alternative ways of communicating, I think, can bring us together. Now, there's nothing like putting on a VR headset and standing there and being with your friends in VR. It's really cool. One of the things that I really blew me away, and I didn't think it would, the pass-through camera of the new Oculus Quest Pro. It has
Mm.
color pass-through, but so I can see my room that I'm in. And then all of a sudden, one of my team members was standing in front of me in super high fidelity avatar, like right there
Yeah.
talking to me as if she was in my room. I was like, whoa. And I could,
Yeah.
because
I've had that
if she
happen to
was
me
sitting, she
too.
was
It's
standing in the
very
wrong spot. I
powerful.
move her over. Oh my God. I didn't think it would be that impactful, but it was really, and by the way, the Oculus Quest Pro has facial tracking. So it has cameras pointing at your lips. So if you smile, your avatar smiles. If you wink, it winks. Like it's really emotive, and I think we're very close to having that real experience. Now it's a bulky thing you got to put on, so you're not going to do it for too long. But that
Yeah.
one-on-one experience, maybe it's like something like, okay, on Mondays we do our team meeting in VR. On Wednesday, Thursday, you come into the office, and or maybe it's Thursday, Friday, you come into the office, and Friday afternoon we have a party or something like an in-person event where everybody gets to just hang out and chat
Yeah.
because
Truly
what
hybrid.
part of the in-office experience is hanging out with people and meeting them and talking to them. I think there's a company called, oh man, it'll come to me. It's a 2D video game like thing, and you're like little
Gather.
avatar sprites, and you walk around. Gather Town. I mean, it's super 8-bit, but it's
Yeah.
cool. You can walk over to someone's desk, and their desk is always there, and you can
Agreed.
say hey, and they can put up a little
Agreed.
barrier saying leave me alone.
What are some other tools that you like? One of the things that I like to leave the audience with is, just some
Yeah.
takeaways on, hey, I'm going to try this tool. And it could be AI, it could be XR. Are there some tools out there that you like that you've been using that you could recommend?
So I guess for meetings, like if you're in the world of work, I have automated my entire pipeline now. So I use Calendly to book my appointments. So it has a 25-minute or a 45-minute appointment, and people can book that. And then I've blocked that out on Calendly of when they can book it and when they can't. And so that's Calendly. And then when I go into Calendly, it automatically sets up a Zoom call. And then the Zoom call automatically, I have a Fireflies AI uh, meeting recorder, and it records my Zoom calls, and then it transcribes it. And at the end of the call, that goes into our HubSpot automatically, and then sends an email follow up with the consensus of the meeting, which is all done through AI.
Yeah,
It's all automated. I don't do any of it, and it takes care of it all.
that's really cool. So it's like remote collaboration and remote video and AI through the entire process into a CRM that actually allows you to get all the information you need from those meetings.
100%. Because I can't do all the meetings obviously, but I like to meet everybody for the first time at least, and we get into conversations, and then our team can then take those. The notes are all there for everybody to
Yeah,
take action on. It also creates action items for people, so it frees me up to do way more than if I had to go and do all those steps. That's like, it used to take me 30 minutes to 40 minutes after every call to go and do all that junk. The other thing I really can't live without anymore, and it's more of a personal thing. I really like Midjourney, and Midjourney
yeah.
5 is really amazing. I use it. I used it today in my AI versus humans.ai website. I used it to create a graphic of Sam Altman giving a testimony to Congress.
Wow. Well, tell the audience. I mean, most people know about Midjourney now because it's been in the news, but for
Yeah.
those that don't, can you explain it really simply?
Midjourney is an AI algorithm that allows you to have text to image. And you can do everything from give me a fantastical world filled with unicorns and rainbows to I need a quantum computer in super high fidelity with this camera angle and this lens flare. And like, you can get as detailed as you want using text, and it will just create it out of thin air. It's mind boggling.
That use case also, given we're recording this podcast on May 11th, and given the announcement yesterday of the Adobe Google partnership, you can imagine that our ability to create images, illustrations, graphics in general is going to massively change for everybody.
Oh my
And
God. It's,
it'll be
yeah.
so accessible.
It's already accessible. I mean, there's now an AI that you can make videos, you can make audio. There's no excuse. There's literally no excuse for not being a creator in this time and age. I mean, Snapchat. People don't give Snapchat enough credit. Their Lens Studio for creating lenses like AR
For
filters and
AR, yeah.
world filters for their AR stuff is there's been more AR done on Snap than all other platforms combined to date. They have done over a
Wow, I didn't know
trillion
that.
AR snaps. They are the leader in AR, period, full stop. And their glasses, which they never came out with, I got to try them. Holy crap. They were mind blowing. They had like a 1 hour battery life, but they were mind blowing for that 1 hour.
Here's a question for you that shifting gears just a little bit, but I've been talking to a lot of young people that have never been into their office and have only operated within Zoom calls. And one of the things that they've been telling me is how difficult it is to be mentored in that kind of environment. And they really miss that. They miss, having a mentor that can help them, understand the business, understand their career. Can you tell me any mentors that you've had over your career that come to mind that have been really impactful for you?
One that comes to mind is a gentleman, Don Walker. Don was an executive here in Canada, and he worked for a car parts CEO of a car parts manufacturer. Um, and I'll never forget one thing he said to me, stuck with me in a really dark time in my life because I just lost everything, literally everything. And he said, "Don't criticize, condemn, or complain." And it stuck with me as just the right advice at the right exact time. And I try to live my life with that now. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain because, well, one, nobody cares, and two, it doesn't make anything better. So it only makes it worse. And so that advice at that time was the perfect amount. And then I had another mentor of mine, Giovanni Marsico, and Giovanni runs a thing called Archangel Academy. And it started off as a group of I think 150 people in LA got together, and I was the DJ for it. And I just happened to be in the right room and met these wonderful people. And
Nice.
it's this kind of abundance mindset, Peter Diamandis kind of thing. So Peter
Yeah.
Diamandis, was one of their guests one year, and I just kind of got pulled into this big thinker type world. And through having the big touchscreen DJ board, I got invited to things like Curiosity Camp, where I met some other mentors there. Curiosity Camp is a camp put on by Eric Schmidt from Google, and I got to go to this camp and really see the future of technology. That's where I saw VR for the first time. And then most recently, I've got a couple of mentors, Bob Gruders, who used to run sales at Facebook. Mark Kuas, who sold a few companies to Microsoft and has built many companies and products over the years. These are really, mentors that are there daily to help me kind of navigate this crazy, entrepreneurial world, because it's what we're doing is very hard. I mean, I would not wish what we've had to go through on anyone. We've had to go through hell to get here. It was really hard because we didn't do it with investment. We did it from our own, which, right or wrong, that's the path we chose,
Yeah.
because we didn't want to dilute ourselves. Now we have a global engine being used by some of the biggest companies in the world, and we've given up no equity.
Yeah. Very, very, very smart. And it is helpful to have mentors along the way. I mean, I know I've spent my life as an entrepreneur, and it's not easy.
It is so hard, guys. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, whatever you think it's going to be 10 times harder, 10 times more expensive, and there'll be 10 times the highs and 10 times the lows, and sometimes in the same day. I used to, complain to somebody before my don't criticize, condemn, or complain moment. I used to complain that, I was rich and poor sometimes in the same day. Sometimes I'd get, $250,000 check in, and we'd have like $300,000 worth of bills to go out.
Yeah.
I'm rich and then poor.
This has just been an amazing conversation, Alan, and it was so fun to meet you in Miami, and I'm excited to see you in San Jose. I and so I want to ask you one last question,
Yeah.
and I ask everybody, if you were to describe the future of work in 2 words, what would those 2 words be?
Unlimited awesome. So my ultimate goal in life is to build a new education system to prepare people for what's coming, and it's going to be called the Unlimited Awesome Academy. And so Unlimited Awesome is our phrase. And we have an unlimited abundance on this planet. We're not going to run out of anything anytime soon, even up to about 10 billion people on the planet. We have to be mindful of how we do it, but we are going to, by the end of this decade, we'll start mining asteroids. It'll be crazy. If you think of things in an abundance mindset and think of the world, instead of like, what job I'm going to get to make some money, what problem in the world do you want to solve? And then spend the rest of your life doing that. And trust me, you'll be rewarded for it, whatever it is, as long as it's a big problem. Mindset shift to a new world when AI unlocks superpowers in everyone. So that's really what I want to build in the world. And 25% of our shares, my wife and I, we've put into a trust for that. Our 25% of our shares in Metaverse and our shares in all of our companies are sitting in a trust for that. And we also have a worldwide perpetual usage license of the Metaverse engine to use it for that. And the 100th floor of the mall will be the global headquarters for the Unlimited Awesome Academy. So we kept floor 100 for ourselves.
That's great. Alan, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really, really appreciate it. And we'll do this again.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.